It really wasn't until sort of 9/11 that happened. I'm Canadian, but I come from a Lebanese background. And after 9/11, there was a lot of sort of pushback towards Arab and Muslim communities, and that was very much felt by my family. And what happened was I kind of started to take a look around me and realize, you know, like the way that Arabs are being portrayed in the media was so different from what I had experienced in my own family growing up. You know, I came across the Speed Sisters, and that just seemed like the perfect story to be able to tell in that vein, and very unexpected, very personal, very funny. You know, the girls they have big personalities and are really funny, and it was so much embodied my experience in the Middle East and with my own family. Incredibly lucky for my first film to come across, you know, these 5, you know, amazing, strong, funny women. I'd been living in Palestine for a couple of years and was invited to go to a race in Bethlehem. And when I got there, and there was a big tarmac, and you know, all of these fans and cars and music, and in the middle of all of this chaos, there were these girls that were putting helmets on to race. And I was just like, wow, that's really fantastic. I think that when we look at the restriction of women, we're looking at the restriction of people. I mean, a lot of the restriction on women in Palestine is the restrictions because of the occupation itself. And so when you're looking at, you know, I think of myself when I was 16 and I got my own driver's license, and the sense of independence and freedom that came with that. Now in a place where so much of your life is dictated by a military occupation, that sense of freedom and independence is even escalated, right? So for them, the one, you know, one of the few times that they have complete and total control in their lives is when they have control over the car. I found that women in the Middle East have like a real, especially in Palestine, have a real connection with driving. You know, it is a definite sense of freedom. I think a lot of people place a lot of emphasis on the competitiveness and the relationship between the women because of the competition, which is like, it's inherent in sport, and that's not a gender thing. I think that happens on male teams as well as female teams. The occupation was always going to be a theme of the story. You can't tell a story in Palestine without the occupation being there. And I think for us, we made a decision very early on that we wanted to portray the occupation as it affected them directly. There's a lot of things that you can say about the occupation, but we wanted to make sure that it was more show, not tell.
Hold on, Betty.
It's very hard to plan your life around checkpoints and around like a military occupation. Forget about any sort of production schedule that you have. But on the flip side of that is shooting within the Palestinian communities was actually quite easy. They were so supportive, and people really, you know, they really come together. So there, you know, there's an informal network of, people know that we're going to Jenin. You know, we'll get phone calls saying, hey, don't go on this road, go on that road, like this is happening, that is happening. And that reflects in the film in terms of the type of access we had, and the humor that came out, and the emotions that were shown on camera was a lot because we had, you know, I think we had a very small all-female crew. There's a lot of collaboration and not a lot of hierarchy, and I don't know if that's a gender thing or not. I mean, I can't speak to that, but I do know that we're working specifically with camera men, that I have found it much easier to work with women, and I find them much more, it's much more collaborative.